Is Robert Van Cleve here? Robert Van Cleve, the chairman of Balfour Beatty. And now the act you've all been waiting for, our headliner. They tell me that he turned down a full scholarship at the Frank Lloyd Wright Institute to be a walk-on design student at Ball State University, wherever that is. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our very own Wild Bill Homrighausen.
Thank you. Thanks for that stellar introduction, Tom. I just want to say before I get started that nobody can prove anything of what he said. But I'm happy to be back here for a good charity, Our Friend's Place. Big hand for them. And this isn't part of my act, but I got to tell you, that's a tough act to follow, Patrick Stanley. He did great. Now, a lot of people talked about change in 2009, but I got to tell you, a lot of things didn't. There were a couple things that didn't change for me in 2009. First of all, I didn't get that big comedy contract. You know, it's a shocker, right? And even worse than that, People magazine snubbed me again for Sexiest Man Alive. Yeah. It's an honest mistake, though, I think. I think the guy's, working on his, cover story deadline late at night, probably hasn't slept in a couple of days. He's typing along and hits a couple of wrong keys, and it comes out Johnny Depp instead of Bill Homrighausen. So, that's an easy mistake. I've made it myself a couple of times. But it's not a big deal, but that's the kind of stuff that makes me want to shoot Andy Warhol. So, now, there were some things that did change in 2009, some big things. And probably the biggest one of all is this whole merger with Balfour, right? And I remember the day that Tom told me about it in dramatic detail, because it's one of those things that you remember where you were and what you were doing when you heard it, right? It's like when I heard Siegfried and Roy were retiring, Who doesn't remember where they were when they heard that, right? So, a couple of months ago, I noticed that Tom was acting a little more erratic than usual. And I thought, well, maybe he's just having too many ding-dongs for breakfast again. So I thought, well, I'll go talk to him and see what's going on. So I went in his office and I said, hey, Tom, you got a minute? I want to ask you something. He said, sure, come on in. So I sat down, and of course the door closes behind you because he's got one of those automatic door things in his office. And, a lot of executives have those. They have a little button under their desk. Well, Tom's got one like Alfred had on the Batman TV show. It's like he's got a bust of David Spaw and the head tilts back, and there's a little button on the inside. So it's pretty cool because you're sitting there and you think, well, maybe Commissioner Gordon's going to come in. So I sat down and I said, hey, Tom, what's going on? And something's on your mind. He goes, yeah. He goes, Bill, looks like Spaw Maxwell's going to merge with Balfour Beatty. And I said, think again, Doris, that's not going to happen. And he goes, oh, yeah. He goes, it's going to be in tomorrow's paper tomorrow. I said, okay. I said, does David Spaw know anything about this? And he said, sure. He goes, David Spaw told me that Nostradamus predicted the whole thing. So I looked at him and I said, Tom, I like you a lot, but you can really be cruel when you're sober. So one of the first things that I thought about was, when you do one of these mergers that big companies, people get moved around and they change offices and things. And I thought, you know, if I leave, who's Tom going to throw his empty whiskey bottles at the end of the day? So, you know, we kind of talked through the whole thing, and the whole conversation was like an after-school special, you know, except I'm not a tattoo artist and he's not a figure skater. So I started thinking about the merger with Balfour, and you know, I made the mistake that I think a lot of people did when they first heard that. They thought it was pronounced Balfour Beatty. Balfour Beatty, okay? So I thought, well, you know, Balfour Beatty, I said, that's not good. That's not good at all. I do not want to work for Ned Beatty, that guy from the Deliverance movie. That would be worse than when I signed up for intimate laser hair removal at Walmart. Not too good. Well, as it turned out, it's Balfour Beatty, so that turned out okay. But then I realized I didn't really know a whole lot about Balfour Beatty, so I thought, well, I'll do what I usually do. I'll just go over to my desk and I'll punch it up on the gadget and, you know, figure out what they're all about. So I did that, and I went over, and before I got to that site, there was another site. It was about the Code of Hammurabi. I don't know whether you know about that, but it's a guy about 3,000 years ago that wrote a bunch of laws. And one of them was particular to construction, and it says, you know, if Spaw Maxwell Balfour Beatty builds a building and it collapses and kills the owner, then Robert Van Cleve shall be put to death. You know? So I was happy that we've progressed in 3,000 years and kind of gotten away from that, but it seems like some of the contracts we get from our owners are still kind of based on that. So I finally got to the Balfour Beatty site, and as it turned out, it's actually a real construction company. You know, who would have thought? So they're located in England, which is embarrassingly close to where the Titanic was built, and England is one of those places where the whole country's an island. Right? And I'm not sure they've kept up with the rest of the world on everything. I'm pretty sure they still use those phones like on Andy Griffith where you have to crank it before you can talk, right? So it could be like this. It could be, you know, Sarah, this is Tom Roland over at Spaw Maxwell. Can you get me Robert Van Cleve down at the diner? Yeah. Otis and Aunt B are at it again. So, I mean, who would have thought that a company from Texas would merge with a company from England? I mean, think about that. We've got chicken fried steak and Willie Nelson, and they've got kidney pie and Engelbert Humperdinck, right? So, I think we know who got the better end of that deal. Now, one of the offshoots of this whole merger thing is that we're going to move into the Balfour building down at the end of the tollway. Which is, it's great. It's great. Tom says we're going to move on March 12th, same as Hitler's birthday, so we got that going for us right off the bat. And, you know, our office right now, for those of you who know where it is, it's generally at Mockingbird and Harry Hines. Not exactly Rodeo Drive, but it's got its own character, okay? So I thought, well, I'm going to do a little homework and see, you know, what the Balfour building's all about, you know, what's it like? So I did this little mental checklist. So first thing I thought of is, well, close to the tollway. Yes. Okay. Close to the tollway, yes. Good views of downtown. Yes. Right. Air conditioned. Yes. Right. Okay. Close to the new Fine Arts adult video store. No. No. Close to the DFW indoor gun range. No. No. Close to the Nagoya 24-hour happy ending massage parlor. No. And get this, the Balfour building, it's like the closest by the hour motel with the vibrating beds is like a mile away. You can't even walk there on your lunch hour. What the hell? I'd really like to talk to the broker that steered us toward that location. Thanks a lot, Jethro. So we're going to move there, and one of the subsets of that move, and it's hard for me to even say these words out loud because I just get all tingly inside. We get to hire an architect to design our space. Yeah. Now, I want to make sure everybody understands what that means, okay? The student has become the master. Right? Now who's going to get put to death when a mistake is made? Right? I'm not saying we're going to exploit that or take advantage of it, but this is what I'll tell you. I've waited like 30 years for this, okay? I want to go to an architectural presentation where I'm the client, okay? And I'm going to sit there the whole time and not say a single word till the very end, okay? And then they're going to look at me and they're going to say, well, what do you think? And I'm going to say, how do you sleep at night? And I'm going to say, get this out of my sight. It's terrible. And then predictably they're going to say, well, what's the matter? What don't you like? What's wrong? And I'll just look at them real serious and I'll say, I'd get a better result if I gave an Etch-a-Sketch to a chimp. Now, that sounds really hard, but, it takes a lot of love to crush somebody's dreams. Okay, that's all I'm saying. But if I could do that just one time, that would make me happier than the day I learned how to drink without a straw. That's how big it is, okay? Now, one of the other merger things is that a lot of people in the industry, they assume that some of us won't be happy with the merger and will want to change jobs. So predictably, I got a letter from my previous employer asking me if I wanted to come back. And I don't have the letter anymore. I had to destroy it before it destroyed me. But we're going to move, and the space that we're moving into is smaller, so we're going to have to get rid of a lot of our secret squirrel contractor stuff. So there's probably going to be a garage sale at the Rowland Mansion, so if you want to pick up one of those Andy Griffith phones, that's where you need to go. Now, one of the other cool things about the move is that the subcontractors that we hire obviously are going to be building the space for us, right? Okay? As opposed to a tenant working for us. And we're hoping against hope that they'll do a good job. Tom spent a lot of time selecting the subcontractors so we'd get it right. He used his typical executive method. He put all their names on a piece of paper and put it on his My Little Pony dartboard. And we got who we got. And you met two of them tonight, Cletus and Buford. They're going to be working on it. And, they both used to work at a slaughterhouse, so we're pretty sure their attention to detail is going to be impeccable, right? Because, when you think about it, a stun gun isn't really that much different than a screw gun. So we think they're going to be okay. But I wouldn't look for our pictures of our space and architectural record anytime soon. I think you're going to be disappointed if you look for that. So we're excited about the move, but the biggest change in 2009 was something that happened to me personally, and I can't do this tonight without telling everybody about it. I gave up drinking Diet Coke, cold turkey. So I'd been a Diet Coke fiend for about 20 years. I drank it voraciously every day. In fact, I drank it so much that I was thinking about getting one of those little helper monkeys with a backpack just to follow me around. And I never did that, but now I wish I had, because if I had, then I finally would have had something in common with Michael Jackson. And now I've missed that opportunity. But it was tough giving up Diet Coke. It was harder than when I got kicked out of the Playboy Mansion after the incident. So about 4 months ago, I called into the office and I talked to Tom and I said, "Hey Tom, I'm not going to be in today because my hip gout is acting up again," right? And I don't usually do that very often, but I wanted to stay home and watch Montel, right? Because he was having a show about Diet Coke. So I'm sitting on the couch and, watching Montel. I got my Snuggie on. And it's the leopard one, yeah. And so it's the predictable formula on Montel. It's a man and his wife, and they start talking, and they finally reach a point where the husband says, he goes, "Honey, I just want you to know that I love you more than anything in the whole wide world, and I'd never do anything to hurt you, but I slept with your sister and I drank all your Diet Coke." So, predictably she gets upset, and in Montel land, upset is, whacking somebody in the head with a 60-pound wooden chair. So they go through the whole litany of all the horrible things that can happen to you when you drink Diet Coke and all the long-term health problems that you have, and it's just horrible because of the aspartame artificial sweetener in it. So it became clear that, you'd be better off lighting a can of Sterno and drinking that instead of drinking a Diet Coke. So I decided, well, I've got a decision to make, and because it was, depressingly inevitable that I was going to have to quit drinking it. So I thought, this is so big that I'm not even going to punch it up on the gadget. I'm going to talk to my go-to guy and see what he says. So I go in the office early the next morning, and I go into Tom's office, and I said, "Hey, Tom, put down your beer and tell me what you know about aspartame." Tell me what you know about aspartame. So he looks up at him and he goes, "What did you call me?" So I knew right then that it was horrible and I was going to have to give it up. So I haven't had a Diet Coke for 4 months. So, thank you. Now, what I can tell you is that I feel a lot better, and I think I look a lot better. The hostess at the Nagoya massage parlor says I look great, but, not that People magazine would ever notice. But I think I got a really good chance at Sexiest Man Alive in 2010. So I need everybody to vote for me. So when that comes around, vote for me. I'll be the one with the Johnny Depp mask on. Okay? Thank you. Thanks for coming out and supporting our friend's place.
We'll talk later.